I say, what are you doing in the Ponderosa? He doesn't know where he is. It's 1,000 square miles. I said, why don't we say, listen, where are you from, St. Louis? Great. How about staying with us for a week?
Everyone knew Lorne Greene as the steady pillar of Bonanza, the kind of man you would never expect to harbor hatred toward anyone. Yet for years, behind that calm and upright image, he quietly carried a deep resentment toward one single person, to the point where he never wanted to see that face again. So who would dare challenge the man who kept the Ponderosa standing strong for decades? And what could possibly push Lorne Greene to turn against someone right in the heart of Hollywood? The truth behind this silent feud is far more shocking than anyone imagined once the name is revealed. Number 1. Clint Eastwood. The second man Greene couldn't stand, and the one who ignited a silent war. Eastwood earned that spot not through a public confrontation, but by casually redefining what a real cowboy was at the exact moment Greene was still carrying the entire spirit of Bonanza on his shoulders. It began in late 1971. Eastwood was seated in a packed press room promoting Dirty Harry when a reporter brought up the old-fashioned moral cowboys of television, a comment that quietly marked a turning point few recognized at the time. Everyone knew the question was code for Ben Cartwright. Clint Eastwood didn't soften his response or pause to reconsider. He leaned slightly forward, flashed that familiar half-smile, and delivered a line that sliced straight through Greene's carefully built image. Real cowboys don't preach. They survive. When Greene read the quote later, he closed the magazine slowly, noticeably slowly. That moment marked the beginning of Greene's quiet resentment. To him, Eastwood's words weren't an attack on a single character. They challenged the entire philosophy Greene had spent years defending. But the real blow came months later. At a warm evening party on Universal's backlit, studio executives mingled casually when someone asked Eastwood what he thought of the Cartwrights. Eastwood shrugged, glanced away with a dismissive smirk, and replied, "They're the polite West. I'm not." The comment wasn't loud, but it stung. Greene's expression faltered, just slightly. The fallout followed quickly. Magazine columns began labeling Eastwood as the new frontier and Greene as the fading sunset. Directors argued in meetings that audiences no longer wanted moral heroes. They wanted Eastwood's cold grit instead. Greene watched younger viewers shift their admiration, not out of disrespect, but out of cultural change. That shift pushed him further from the center of attention. After that, Greene never confronted Eastwood and never spoke a hostile word in public. But in private, he admitted the truth that those closest to him had long suspected. "He didn't attack me. He replaced the world I belonged to." That was how Greene described the wound that never healed. Number 2. John Wayne. It is the last name people expect to hear when discussing Greene's hidden grudges, the most legendary cowboy in film history. Wayne hurt him more deeply than anyone else, not with fists and not through gossip, but with a single sentence spoken at the worst possible moment. From that moment on, the relationship was permanently fractured. It happened in April 1966 at the Beverly Hills Hotel, under blinding lights and surrounded by cameras. Journalists packed the room shoulder to shoulder, while John Wayne commanded the space like a general inspecting his troops. When a reporter asked whether television westerns were damaging the traditional western genre, Wayne leaned into the microphone, raised an eyebrow, and delivered a single line that would linger in Lorne Greene's mind for years. "If you want a West without blood or grit, watch Bonanza." The room erupted in laughter. One photographer shouted, "That's going on the front page." By that evening, it did. Greene later found the quote printed across a stack of newspapers left outside his dressing room at Paramount. A crew member would recall that he didn't yell or protest. He simply stood there, silently staring at Wayne's words. Weeks later, the wound was reopened. At a charity banquet in Beverly Hills, with donors, producers, and studio executives looking on, Wayne walked up to Greene. Slapping him heavily on the back, he laughed and said, "TV cowboys have it easy, pal. Try real dust sometime." The crowd laughed again, but for Greene, the moment cut deeper than before. Greene maintained his familiar polite smile, but those close to him saw his eyes drop. The fallout came quickly. Bonanza became the target of jokes on radio shows. Columnists drew sharp comparisons, writing things like, "Wayne is the West, Greene is the commercial version." NBC pushed Greene into interviews to correct public perception, which only left him feeling more exposed and embarrassed. Wayne never clarified his comments, never softened them, and never acknowledged the damage they caused. From that point on, their relationship was effectively over. In private, Greene later admitted, "He made me feel like a guest in my own genre, and that feeling never fully faded." Number 3. Michael Landon. The third name on Greene's list, and the conflict that split the Ponderosa in half. Of all the names, Landon blindsided him the most. The on-screen son who became the sharpest creative rival Greene ever faced. The tension exploded the moment Landon decided the show no longer needed Greene at its center. It began in late 1966. While Greene was keeping the production running like a disciplined machine, Landon quietly shifted direction. He started writing scripts on his own, slipping drafts directly to NBC and bypassing the usual chain of command. When the network instantly approved one of Landon's episodes, he walked onto the set holding the approval letter like a trophy. Tapping the paper, he said, "Looks like they're ready for something new." Greene froze for a brief second, long enough to understand exactly what Landon was declaring. He wanted creative power. Things escalated quickly. Landon wrote more episodes, pushed for emotionally driven storylines focused on younger characters, and gradually reshaped Bonanza into something that no longer reflected Greene's original vision. Greene watched scenes drift away from Ben Cartwright, watched the spotlight tilt toward Landon, and watched NBC praise every change. The breaking point came in 1972 during the script meeting for Forever. Greene flipped through the pages, his expression tightening as he realized his own character had been reduced to a background presence. Across the table, Landon looked calm and confident and said, "The audience wants a new direction." Greene didn't argue. He simply set the script down, rose slowly, and walked out of the room. A producer later recalled, "The silence in that room could have cracked glass." After that day, the atmosphere on set seemed to split in two, those who eagerly followed Landon's creative momentum, and those who still believed Greene embodied the true heart of Bonanza. A magazine soon began dubbing Landon the new architect of Bonanza, a title that quietly pushed Greene into the shadows. He never confronted Landon publicly, but in private, he admitted one of the most painful truths of his life. "He took nothing from me intentionally, but somehow he took everything." That sense of betrayal cut deeper than any enemy ever could. Number 4. Pernell Roberts. The co-star who turned Greene's set into a battleground. Sitting fourth on Greene's private list was the only actor who challenged him openly and without hesitation. From the very beginning, Roberts treated Bonanza not as a family drama but as a stage for debate, and Greene was always the man at the center of the fire. The conflict erupted during a script discussion in the early 1960s, while everyone else tried to maintain harmony on set. Roberts leaned back in his chair, lifted a script, and declared in front of the entire production team, "These stories are too clean. Ben Cartwright isn't a father. He's a fantasy." Every head in the room turned toward Greene. He didn't speak, but his tightened posture told the whole story. Roberts pressed harder, openly criticizing the writing, the tone, and especially Greene's character. One heated afternoon in 1963, he slammed a script onto the conference table and said, "Adam can't grow because Ben won't let him." The room went silent, and for Greene, every word was a challenge he could not ignore. Greene stared at him for a long moment before responding, "Adam chooses family. That's not weakness." Roberts shook his head, stood up, and walked out. The writers remained frozen, caught between loyalty and tension. But the clashes didn't stop in the script rooms. Roberts began skipping promotional events, refusing charity appearances, and repeatedly leaving Greene to face the press alone, answering questions about the show's supposed unity. NBC executives pleaded with Greene to maintain the peace, forcing him into a role he never wanted, that of mediator. Yet the fracture became undeniable in 1965. Roberts gave an interview to the San Francisco Chronicle, and his words spread through Hollywood like fire across dry grass. "I don't believe in Ben Cartwright. He's not real. He's too perfect to respect. To Greene, this wasn't just criticism of the writing. It was a direct strike at the character he had built with years of discipline, care, and emotional weight. After that, Greene never forgave Roberts, and the wound never fully healed. Number 5. Guy Williams. The final name on Greene's list, and the one who truly tested his temper. Reaching the last spot didn't make this entry any less explosive. Williams earned his place for a very specific reason. He was the only man who pushed Lorne Greene so far that the calm, composed patriarch of Bonanza finally walked off his own set. Not out of ego, not out of anger, but out of sheer disbelief at how completely Williams had shattered the discipline Greene had protected for years. The chaos began the moment Guy Williams arrived for his guest role in late 1967. While actors usually slipped quietly onto the studio lot, Williams made a scene. He pulled up in a convertible, cameras flashing, clearly tipped off the press in advance. Crew members whispered among themselves, "He thinks he's filming Zorro again." Greene watched from a distance, jaw tightening as Williams blatantly ignored the unspoken rule of Ponderosa: respect the work, not the spotlight. Then came the retakes, endless retakes. Williams demanded extra takes, not to improve his performance, but for vanity. He fussed over angles, lighting, and even the position of Greene's body, ensuring Ben Cartwright wouldn't block his profile. During one scene, Williams declared loudly, "We'll redo it. My character leads this moment, not Ben Cartwright." Greene didn't argue, but his cold, unwavering stare silenced the entire room. The breaking point came midweek. A simple two-line exchange collapsed when Williams cut the scene mid-shot and announced, "Stop. This doesn't showcase me properly." Greene turned slowly, locked eyes with him, placed his hat on the table, and walked off set, without a single word. Production shut down for the entire afternoon. NBC executives scrambled to intervene, but the tension lingered. Williams hadn't bruised Greene's ego. He had bruised Greene's principles. Later, Greene summed it up privately with a line insiders never forgot: "Some people don't break the rules. They break the room." Williams had done exactly that. And now that you've seen the truth behind the one man Lorne Greene hated more than anyone, what do you think? Was his anger justified, or did Hollywood push the rivalry too far? The story of Greene's grudges reveals the hidden battles behind the golden era of television, a world where the spotlight often clashed with loyalty, and where even the calmest patriarchs could be tested beyond endurance.